Welcome to the InitiativeOne Leadership Podcast, where we help leaders maximize their impact and transform their lives. I'm your host, Nick Nighbor, as well as the VP of Strategic Partnership with InitiativeOne. In today's episode, we have InitiativeOne's very own Dr. Paul Metler. Dr. Metler is the VP of Content Development with InitiativeOne. He has been part of the InitiativeOne team since he met Dr. Fred Johnson over 20 years ago. Dr. Metler serves in a couple different areas. Number one is he creates content that helps with our signature processes like leadership transformation, different services that we offer. He also delivers that information through facilitation to individuals as well as organizations. And he also trains our facilitators so they can deliver their message to the organizations that we serve. Welcome to the show, Dr. Metler.
Oh, thanks, Nick. It is great to be on with you today.
Yes, I'm glad that you're here. And what we're going to be talking about today is the PDP Proscan. And I'm going to start with just a couple questions just for the listeners here really quick. Have you ever worked with an individual and you didn't quite get along with that person? Or even just if we flip the coin here, maybe you've worked with someone and like, wow, like we work together so well. You know, maybe you've experienced working really well with someone, and maybe you've experienced the flip side of that, like where it's like, man, like we just can't get it together. And that's why we're going to talk about the PDP Proscan, which is one of the services that we offer at InitiativeOne. And the reason I brought Dr. Paul Metler on is because he's the one that actually he delivers these assessments to individuals. I think he had some this morning. So let's start out with this here first. Tell us about like what is the PDP Proscan?
Wow. Well, you know, it's an opportunity for us to help leaders and organizations with something that I believe is fundamental. I believe that we all like to be understood, and I believe that we also have a desire to understand others. And so the PDP Proscan for us is a great tool that helps us with that. It's a way for us to understand ourselves and to understand others. And in terms of a more concrete technical answer, it provides three pieces of information. Really, how do I lead? How do I communicate? How do I make decisions most naturally, most efficiently? And so that first section of the PDP is really all about that. It's what is referred to as the basic natural self, and it really provides a great look into those things. The second part is actually a picture of, am I feeling stress? Am I feeling pressure? Am I feeling the need to adjust from what is natural for me? And if so, to what extent does that affect my energy levels? What extent does the pressure, the stress that I'm feeling, is it eustress? Is it positive stress that energizes me? Is it distress that creates some type of significant energy drain? And when that happens, are there ways that I am tempted to behave, to communicate, to lead in a way that's not my best? So that's the second section. The third section of the report gets into, are there ways that I come across differently to others than what is my basic natural style? So those are valuable insights to us individually, but also as teams, as organizations. When we have a better understanding, it contributes to our emotional intelligence, and we think that's important. And the leaders that we serve would agree with that.
All right. So just to reiterate, so the first part is really understanding yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. So understanding yourself, which isn't very important. Like if we're not sure how we're wired, it's hard for us to adjust how we show up in the world. The other part, I know you had mentioned three parts, but the other part is how we come across as how we're perceived with other individuals. Correct?
Sure.
Okay. So, and this is an assessment, right? You answer some questions. It's a pretty quick assessment, like to actually complete it in terms of when you deliver it or the other facilitators deliver it. How would you say, how is this different from like DISC or Strengths Finder, Myers-Briggs? How would you say this is different?
Well, I'll begin by saying that, hey, there are some great instruments out there, and certainly I have taken, I have utilized many of those, and so this is not about in any way diminishing the effectiveness or the value of those other instruments, but to talk about how it's distinctive, we have found number one, it's really user friendly, if I could use that terminology that's been around a long time. So we found that it is easy to complete, and it provides a wealth of information. So one of the things that's valuable for us is the integration of those three pieces that I described. So not only is it valuable in terms of that self understanding, it's also very well integrated with things that we found matter most right now. In other words, you hear a lot about work-life balance. You hear a lot about stress. You hear a lot about people who talk about burnout. We
Mhm.
hear a lot of those things that surface when people speak to turnover and how to acquire, develop, and retain the best talent. This particular PDP Proscan integrates those in a way that I find to be unique. When you look at energy drain, in fact, I was having a conversation just today about that. Wouldn't it be great if we were like cell phones and we had a percentage right up here on our forehead that say, wow, you're at 7%. You need to plug in. You need to refresh. It's time to recharge or you're going to run out of battery. We don't. This assessment identifies where you are with that energy drain, and it also helps you understand some things about yourself. What are the things that tend to drain my energy? Again, using the cell phone as a way to illustrate, there are certain things that drain the battery faster than others. And each of us is wired in such a way. There are things that drain me, Nick, that don't drain you. There are
Right.
things that trigger my need to plug in and recharge that are different than for you. And so I love the PDP Pro Scan because it does that in a very understandable, concise way that provides leaders and organizations with information that helps them to make decisions better in terms of effectiveness and efficiency.
I really like that analogy that you used with the cell phone battery. I think everyone can relate to that because when your phone's at 1 or 2%, like you're not about to do much on that phone. You just want actually my phone had died this morning, so I know exactly what you're talking about. So when you're with someone, whether it's a coworker or whether it's with your boss or even just with friends, there are things that we have in our lives and how we show up. Sometimes those experiences or environments take energy away, and then there's some that give us energy. And what this scan does, what this assessment does, is it helps us understand more what gives us energy, what takes it away, and it's not so much uh, you have to change or you have to adjust. It's like, listen, like this is how Nick Nighbor shows up best.
Right.
This is where I show up best, and that's where I'm showing up as myself, as my best self. As you were talking a little bit about the other assessments, which I agree, there are some really, really great tools to know a little bit about yourself. And some of them talk about, well, okay, maybe you just need to work on this strength, maybe you need to work on this weakness. How is that? What is the lens that we're looking through when someone does get that assessment? Is it, do you need to change? Like, how is that framed when you're going through that when you're going through that assessment? What is the frame that people need to look through?
Oh, great question for us because the PDP we found aligns so well with Initiative One. What our vision is, what we're all about. So we're all about helping leaders reach their potential, and so we begin with that lens, with that understanding that how can I, as a leader, take 100% responsibility for leading at my best, and how can I develop a culture where accountability is truly positive? So what the PDP enables us to do, just use, we're on the same team here, Nick. So I'll use our experience as an example. What
Okay.
that allows me to do is to share openly a few key points and open the door for you to help me with that accountability so that not only do I understand how I lead and communicate at my best, how I make decisions at my best most naturally, we create a common language with the PDP Proscan that enables you, Nick, to say, if you see me behaving in a way, the PDP use language such as a backup style. So what that identifies is when I'm stressed, when I'm fatigued, when I am frustrated, when I'm defensive, there are certain natural temptations for me to lead and communicate in a way that's not at my best. And so when you have that common language with me, Nick, you can help me be accountable. And I will invite you to say, hey, when you see these tendencies, when you
Hmm.
see me begin to act on those temptations to lead or communicate in a way that's not my best, the PDP does it in such a marvelous way that it opens the door for that accountability. So self awareness is great, but social awareness is equally important. And when you can connect those two, we can make better choices and we can bring out the best. And in essence, you can say to me, hey, Paul, I know who you are when you're leading at your best. And today I'm not seeing that. So let's have that other Paul to the table. It's there. I know who you are, and can I help with that kind of accountability?
Correct. So it's not so much as in like you need to change, you need to fix yourself. It's just,
No.
hey, Nick, like this is how you show up best. And I'm not necessarily seeing that. And it's really understanding the cause or what you were saying, the backup style, which would be almost think of like the backup style maybe as like the shadow for
Yeah.
Gallup. Like every strength is good to a point, but if leaned in too much, it can be negative. Where the backup style is similar to that with if I want to go in this direction and I'm getting resistance, then I'm going to push a little bit further. That's my backup style. Is that, am I saying that correctly?
Oh, you bet. Let me illustrate. So
Okay.
I'm an extrovert. Extroversion, natural strength for me is that verbal, to be articulate, to communicate things rapidly, quickly, to go there. Um, so I have to be aware that I will use those natural strengths in a way that diminishes my effectiveness. For example, I can over persuade, I can kick into high gear and interrupt, I can talk too much. All of these things are things that I am aware of. And when I look at my PDP report, it's there, so to speak, in black and white. And I can acknowledge that. Next level teams, next level leaders not only give permission to say, hey, Nick, if you see this in me, it's not just a matter of giving permission. I crave it. I desire it. I want it. I want to have help in the moment, in the heat of the moment. That's when leadership really provides real time opportunities for teams to get better. So not only does it help me to lead better if I have that accountability with you, it also helps you to become a better leader, a stronger leader when you learn to practice giving that in real time. Real time is where leadership reaches that next level. It's not a matter of talking about what you did a month ago or what you did in that last meeting. What about real time when it's intense?
Mhm.
That's next level accountability. That's positive and about helping me in the moment.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. The PDP is delivered to individuals, but
Yes.
then also can be delivered as a team scan. So tell me a little bit about the team scan. You've already touched on it a little bit already, but I want you to like really share with us like the benefit and the impact of having a team go through that team scan.
Oh, now you're getting me excited, Nick, because I love one-on-one conversations and the PDP Pro Scan, and to be able to have those coaching consultations, which is what we do for individuals, and is actually a part of our leadership transformation process. Every one of those begins with a one-on-one consultation, a coaching session to help us understand. Now, what I really love is the opportunity to do what we call a PDP team scan, a workshop that is designed to take that self-awareness and the understanding that comes from the individual report, and then combining those individual reports to a team report where we can have open and honest conversations about the differences in the team, about how we're wired differently, how we communicate differently, how we make decisions differently, and maximize the power of that diversity, that cognitive diversity that's in the room, so that we understand each other better. And sometimes we're frustrated with people around us just because they think a little bit differently. Just because, some people love to make decisions based upon the facts and the analytics. And in fact, they're not going to move toward that decision and feel like it's a good decision until they have that in front of them. Some people, they trust their gut. And once they hear about a decision, they have an initial gut feeling about how they feel about that decision, and how they will feel good about that decision. And guess what? If you are a fact-based decision maker and I am more of an intuitive decision maker, it helps me to know that about you. And it not only helps me to know that about you, it helps me to appreciate and value that about you. And when we get a team scan together and we get those people in the room together and we learn how to value those differences, and in fact, dare I say, leverage those differences for better decision making, for deeper decision making processes. And rather than to get frustrated and bring out our worst in those moments, to bring out our best in those moments as teams. Those are the teams that do exceptional work. And does it get intense? Sure. Is it challenging? Sure. But the PDP Team Scan helps us understand that and enrich our leadership and decision making together.
It's almost as if once you go through this, and this was just something that we just redid about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago as a team. It was so telling because when a scenario comes up, or let's say a decision needs to be had, and we're talking about this one topic, and some are like, "Yeah, let's go. That sounds great. Yes, let's do it." And then a couple other people are like, "Well, I need a little bit more information." That's exactly what you're talking about. Is some people fact-based, they need more information. So it's not necessarily people don't. I don't think it's a question of they don't want to make a decision. It's they'll feel better when they know a little bit more to make a decision, because some people can hear something and say right away, "Yep, I'm ready to go," and the other person sitting right next to them be like, "Nope, I need 24 hours to think on this so I can like fully consume and digest all this new information that we're getting." So that's really helpful. There are, anyone that works with a team of people, or even just one other person, they're two completely different people, and sometimes they're going to work really well, and sometimes they're going to resist each other. And this PDP, what this does is it helps, it brings understanding between people. And it's so interesting. You might have a team of 8 over here and a team of 8 over here, and they look completely different. Yet they might work together. They might work very well together, but they're all wired a little bit differently.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. I'm glad that you brought that up about like the feeling based and the emotion based, because that's a really big part, especially when decisions need to get made, right?
Yes. Yeah, and
So
I appreciate you slid in there. Hey, we practice what we preach. It's not a matter of us saying to our teams that we work with, "Hey, you need this. We need this." At InitiativeOne, we need it. We utilize this. We engage with the PDP. Thank you for sharing that.
yes, and if you're listening and you're able to go through one of these with Dr. Paul, he's so good at this. Like when he shared my assessment with me, he was using all these different examples. Like, if this happened, and I'm like, how did you even know that? Like, you're doing something like, all right, how did you know that? Like, it's that the scan, it's so telling with how you show up as your best and not your best, right?
Yes.
All right. Thank you for answering that. I know we've gone into details like, what is it? Why is it important? So now I want to dig a little bit into, what does that process look like? So if somebody, whether it's an individual, it could be someone in HR, could be like an owner of a company, could be an employee, could be an entrepreneur, anyone that's, in the marketplace. What is the process if someone were interested in the PDP, walk through that process. Like how does that process work with InitiativeOne?
Well, there are a number of opportunities for us, and you're right, Nick. We love this, so we do utilize the PDP Proscan as a part of executive coaching, for example. That's a great starting place. If we're doing one-on-one executive coaching, we do this. It is a part, as I mentioned earlier, the initial part of that self-awareness that is a key introductory piece to our leadership transformation process. Our leadership foundations process as well. That individual PDP Pro Scan as well as our team scan is a part of that. So I want to begin by saying that yes, we utilize the PDP Pro Scan as a beginning point for our signature leadership process and many other of the ways that we serve leaders. Also, it's available as a one-on-one individual purchase as one of our services. And so what that looks like is when you engage with us and you're going to complete the PDP Pro Scan, you receive a link. It's something that you can complete online. As I mentioned before, it really is easy to complete. It generates a very detailed report, and then you have the opportunity to self-schedule with one of our trained facilitators for that consultation, that one-on-one time that we do just like you and I here, Nick. It's an opportunity to have a virtual meeting where you can walk through that report, gain an understanding of how to read, how to interpret, how to apply the results that you have received. And certainly built into that report are some very specific self-coaching tips. And so I love the depth of the information that you receive. I also love the simplicity of the practical application with some of those self-coaching tips where it creates buy-in for you to generate momentum moving forward. So you can reach out to us. There's a way to do that on our website. You can certainly reach out to us and engage with us personally in terms of the best way forward to take advantage of this marvelous tool. And you're right, Nick. I love those one-on-ones. I love the opportunity to connect with people. And our facilitators are really masterful at helping you to get those practical takeaways.
This has been really powerful. Thank you for sharing this. In terms of the PDP Pro Scan, so one of the best ways to explain it is we have processes. If you're listening to this show for the first time or you're watching this right now, is we have specific processes where we help individuals and leaders. You had mentioned executive coaching, which is more of like one-on-one coaching, and also InitiativeOne's signature process, leadership transformation. So anyone that joins that either as a company or joining it as a mixed group, like as an individual, part of that process, you actually get the PDP Pro Scan. It's part of that process. However, like you can just get that just to start, and I feel that that's going through one of our processes that's where you're going to get the get the biggest impact. But this PDP Pro Scan is a great way just to understand yourself, understand your team, and just know how people on your team and yourself, how you best show up in the environment, because that's really where it starts. You said 100% responsibility. What can I do to make this situation or environment better? That's where it is. That's the PDP Pro Scan. But then going through like a full process, leadership transformation, the executive coaching, that's where you get like a full transformation. It's really, really awesome. So one last question here for you, Dr. Paul. If I was a leader of an organization, a business owner, an entrepreneur, maybe I run a nonprofit, why would I get the PDP Proscan assessment?
Wow. because your best leadership connects self-awareness with opportunity. So I would put it simply this way. My best leadership is really a stewardship of understanding myself and bringing my best self to those opportunities to lead, to communicate, to make decisions that happen every day. And the more I understand myself, that self-awareness, that will allow me to engage in self-leadership in the moment, in real time, and maximize my potential and my effectiveness. This is a great practical tool that will help me do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. And just to end the show here, I want to thank you for listening in, watching, and we really appreciate you taking this information in from us. It's our mission here at InitiativeOne is to serve our listeners, serve our watchers, serve our community, and help you become the best version of yourself. So if you're listening to this on the podcast and you found value, go ahead and share this with a family member, a friend, a coworker, a colleague. The best way that we can reach more people is by you just sharing this. Just share this with one person. And if you have found value in this episode, or you just enjoy listening in on the show, leave us a rating, leave us a review, because the more people that we can reach, the more people that we can impact, we all become better. So thank you so much for listening in, and we will see you next time.